Any adjustments? Great. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda, or there's some changes?
I'll move.
All second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, great. Let's receive our SJR Woodlands Division report.
All right, well, send your packet beginning on page 16. Nothing to add, but be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Neil?
Any questions?
Hang on. You went so fast there.
Keep up.
No, I don't.
Okay. Thank you. Discuss and/or act on the water line renewal plan analysis completed by HDR engineers, pages 30 to 32.
Wanted to give everyone a summary. At the trustee meeting last week, Esther made a proposal. If you hadn't seen it, I'd encourage you to take a look at that. But I wanted to summarize what was presented. The proposal would be to take the 5 tier 1 and tier 2 projects and place them into the 10-year project plan, space them out, tier 1s and tier 2s, modify the scope slightly of each one. And there's a good illustration in your packet on page 31 that kind of helps. But the original proposal or scope of all these projects had some additional segments in them that weren't necessarily as bad a condition as the rest, didn't have as many breaks, but they kind of thought, economy of scale might be good to add some of these in. The proposal would be to identify the core project and then have alternates for some of the spurs that kind of flare off of the main line that's having more problems. So they would put them into the 10-year project plan with kind of a base and then an alternate. And then once it's time to do that project, we kind of look at the history from now until then, and look and see, has this line been breaking? Has it started breaking more? And if so, then you might pull an alternate into the base. If it hasn't, and it's still in good condition, just kind of roll it forward to the next one. Keep monitoring it to make sure that it's staying consistent, or it's not starting to break more often. Because that was the real indicator, was when it starts to break more frequently. That's kind of an indicator that it's getting bad. And then also part of the proposal would be to every 5 years go back in and do kind of a condition-based update of the system. Maybe not to the full degree that we did the first time, but certainly go in and do some additional testing. Do the as things break, opportunistic testing. Pull those samples when they break and have them tested along the way, throughout the years to continue to collect data. So this month we're asking the boards to direct their trustee at the next trustee meeting to approve or not that philosophy. And then that will pave the way for SJR to be able to get those projects put on the 10-year project plan, which will then lead us to be able to do kind of all the financial analysis on, what it'll do to the customers and how.
That is really the critical step. Getting the spending or into the project plan then gives you the spending forecast, et cetera. So.
Quick question.
Question? Go ahead.
I know we had talked about identifying what would be considered baseline versus alternate. When do we expect as far as the time frame of that separation?
As far as when that will be determined?
Yeah, because there was at least some dialogue about, in the different areas, what obviously showed in the data needed to be, part of that baseline project versus, obviously some of the added risks in some of the areas with AC water line, right?
Yeah. I know Chris mentioned, I think yesterday, they're going to be working with HDR to kind of fine tune that out as they put it into the project plan. And so we'll also get updated numbers, I think. And then with that, we'll identify what really did make the bet. Because this one's a really easy example, because those spurs are truly kind of spur off. Some of them don't look like this. Some of them, the lines are going all over, and where is the base project and where is where are the spurs?
Mhm.
And so I think that's to your point, what needs to be finalized. And I think that will be done with y'all's recent work.
It will. We do have some examples I passed out to the trustees. If you want to see rough examples that we have, I do have some copies here. But that's not going to be the final one because we are looking at HDR to be the final.
Yeah, one example also is the, like in the tier two, the Gruben's Mill replacement. There's a couple of segments going off there. So that's, I think would be helpful for folks to see
You
those.
can see the examples we have just to kind of get a rough idea, or do you want to wait for the HDR?
I mean, we could probably take them with us. I don't know, so we know that we can review them in the meeting.
Yeah, just reference material just for you. I mean, we've already printed them. Might as well use them, right?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And then I guess the other question I had is just clarity on how the tranches would work. So the bonds are only good for 3 years, is that correct? There was some conversation in the trustee meeting about how long the funding would be appropriate.
Yeah, the projects, so a project from start design to completion of construction could take 3 to 5 years. So there's gonna likely be some overlap on some of it. There's funding right now for town center. But when we need, there isn't funding for construction of town center.
Right.
So likely what we would look at is a bond issue for the construction of town center and then the design of project 2, which is Woodlands Parkway. And then viewed out probably 3 years later, that was where the 3 years came from, probably 3 years later, when the construction of project 1 is done and the engineering of project 2 is done, then we'd do another tranche for construction of project 2, design of project 3.
Okay.
And that would likely be roughly every 3 years.
So it wouldn't, I just wanted clarity on the timelines because obviously we're talking about a larger reassessment at 5 years. So we would essentially be looking at design of the tier 2 projects when we start construction on Waterway. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it would,
Okay.
yeah, construction design. Yeah, as one's being construction, you'd start design on the next one.
Okay. So in theory, we would be starting design before the 5-year reassessment.
Correct.
Okay.
On project 2.
Right.
Maybe even project 30, is probably starting design by the end of that 5-year mark. And what we're trying to kind of work through also, some of the directors are interested in, and I've got some thoughts, Brian, and I need to talk more about it, is how do we set up the governance or the policy to where we can continue to follow that cadence without, having elections and other things spin it sideways again and we're starting over. Because I think we have very good concurrence across all of the MUDs right now to go with this scenario. So I'd like to firm it up a little bit, not to necessarily pre-approve all of the funding, but agree that we've agreed on this process and that these base project plus whatever alternates, are ready to go will follow suit. And that the supplemental agreement, which is the document that's utilized to memorialize the money side of things, also kind of talks about that cadence as well.
So we could outline the cadence in there.
I would hope so. Yeah, we're gonna be kind of working through some of that right now.
So we need to direct our trustee. Do we need to make a motion or something, or just
No.
tell them that?
Specifically direct your trustee that you're in concurrence with the philosophy as I've laid out, or Mr. A's laid out. I do support it. So I think it is a good path. I think it gets us going, and it also allows us to keep monitoring those lines that, aren't quite ready, but maybe they are,
I think we're a consensus.
No action is to head that or what?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I mean, I do think I'd like to see us push to have that cadence outlined in the supplemental agreement if at all possible.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a necessity also. So,
Excellent.
November the 26th, I think, trustees give direct.
Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's,
December 26th.
hang on, there's something.
Thanksgiving is on 27th.
So hang on.
No, it's the 27th.
Yeah, there's something.
Probably the 12th would be the second Wednesday.
Well, I'm just looking at the,
-7.
No, the mud meetings.
The 12th.
Talking about November
Yeah.
or the trustee meeting.
Trustee
Trustee meeting's on the 12th.
12th.
Mud meetings.
oh, okay.
Are you looking, Neil, at page 32, the schedule?
Yeah, yeah.
That would be the year, so it's November 25.
Okay.
FYI.
All right. Got it.
Okay. Next item, receive update on the engineering design of Bear Branch Dam, service spillway and auxiliary spillway.
Good afternoon. I think some of you all have picked up this, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The SRA board next Thursday will consider and more than likely approve the engineering contract for Schnabel to move forward with preliminary engineering on Bear Branch Dam spillway replacement. We asked them to look at an alternative design because they had mentioned it in their preliminary engineering report that an alternate design might save money. And so they mentioned a labyrinth type spillway, and it's a sawtooth spillway. But when you Google it, you're going to see one that's just flat across but sawtooth. They're going to have to modify that design a little bit because this has to be a detention pond. A normal labyrinth spillway is straight across, no detention. So, and we have to make certain that the hydraulics of the water coming through the dam mirrors what comes through the current Bear Branch Dam today. But they should start, our consultant, once approved, should start early November, and we should have some information March, April next year to bring back to the MUDs for consideration. Any questions? And then if any of you all pick this up, we've typically provided a monthly update to the MUDs that pay for the operation and maintenance of Bear Branch Dam. This is a much more expanded report than what they've typically seen. And plus it also talks about some of the Bear Branch projects that are currently active. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
This is still all done by the Lake Conroe Division?
Yes, sir.
That's okay. So the supplemental agreement though will be with the Woodlands Division, right?
No, sir.
With the muds, between the Woodlands Division and the muds.
Okay. So,
Similar to what we did back in 2016 for the 2017 bond issue, the rehab of the West Coast.
in my time,
But we'll be using that as a starting point. And
okay,
then, adding on stuff about, what the plan is for future bond issuances and what have you. Related to the water lines. We're not going to tackle wastewater. That's a separate issue, but the water line, we talked about.
okay.
Plan to have a bond issue, no tranches.
Item 13, consider an act on pay application number 2 for the retail wastewater collection system rehabilitation year 2, pages 33 through 39.
In your packets, a copy of the pay estimate number 2. Some districts had some work, some didn't. You actually did have some work in pay estimate number 2. About $66,068 worth. And then 5% retainage was withheld from that. So you have about $63,000 as your part of that project. Remember, that's the sanitary sewer rehabilitation project, which will have a number of estimates over the time. You had about 404,000 share of the 1.5 million, and after this pay estimate, you'll be through about 133,000 of that. So about a third of the way of the work to be done in Mud 6. So I'll need approval of that pay estimate number 2, that amount, your shares amounts.
So the approval then is for,
Pay estimate number 2.
yeah. This estimate summarizes all the additional work or new work is done.
Correct. And
Okay.
your portion of that is $66,068.
Right.
Minus 5% retainage, which is $3,300, $3,303.40.
Yeah.
A motion?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions?
I'll second that. Favor?
County's report?
Nothing to report today. I do need to touch on the next item with you regarding our new reporting requirement for House Bill 103.
Okay.
All right. So the legislation's in your packet. It's, another requirement from the legislature regarding, transparency and filing of information regarding the district's taxes and bond authorizations and issuances. So we'll be working with staff as well as with your financial advisor to get that prepared. As you'll see in the legislation, the initial report has to include a 10-year look back period, so 2015 through 2025. After that, it'll be a lot simpler, just one year look back. The first report is due on January the 1st. So we would ask for the board to authorize the district's consultants and staff to prepare and file that report with the comptroller by the January 1st deadline.
Is there a specific format for the report? Is that-
We're still working with the comptroller to get what that format's going to be, because they're going to want to upload that into a digital search feature. So working with them on that.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Receive and or act on the general manager's report.
Back on page
46.
46?
As you can see, we continue to add in quite a bit of information.
A lot.
I know.
That's great.
Yeah,
Anything that you find you want to learn about, we'll be happy to add it. Page 47, you can kind of see an example of something that's going on with that sanitary sewer project, which is, rehabbing manholes, redoing lines, things like that, inside and out, things like that. Wanted to point out, we did make our first hire as it relates to the ditch work that we talked about in the budget setting. So we have a new hire coming on, I guess, this Thursday or Friday. And then we're continuing to interview folks to help man that field work crew on the ditches. We've also acquired some of the equipment that we had indicated we were going to need. So some of that's coming in now too. So we should be able to start hitting the ditches for the budget items hopefully soon. We also have we'll point out an anniversary of one of our own Shelley, has been here 15 years. And I guess before we go to the communications report, I wanted to circle back on the dam, talk a little bit about that. I had passed out a little sheet. The sheet with the yellow on it you've seen before, that was just a summary of the funds needed. I know that we had talked about this last month. I reported that I was putting this discussion on hold while we got the other, the stakeholder MUDs focused on getting the engineering funded through the budgeting. On the backside, what we've done is I've kind of modified, kind of hearing y'all's original thoughts and some of the other districts' original thoughts on this a couple months ago, recognizing that, certain MUDs have certain other capabilities financially or not. Gone in and modified how the philosophy on how we might look at participation across several of the MUDs. So for y'all, I think what I gathered was kind of on the fence, like to see the numbers, maybe yes, maybe no. That's kind of what I heard. The numbers that you saw before were based on connections, purely connections. Mm-hmm. And there were some problems with that a little bit in certain MUDs. And in certain stakeholder MUDs, because it didn't specifically dictate that the stakeholder MUD shares would go down. One district actually went up because the connections being used in the current model or contract are based on flow going to the facility. They have a lot more connections that aren't tied to that contract. And if you just did it blindly on connections across the entire Woodlands, their share would actually go up. Mm-hmm. So they weren't real interested in that necessarily. And then there's others that, if we went by connections, it would be a number that just wouldn't even be feasible financially. So I tried to come up with a different method. And one of the ways I did it specifically for you is to think of it in terms of a cost per household. And so that's kind of how I've come up with another alternative to look at the numbers. And so this is just a starting point. It can be modified. I just put $20 per household. This is a one-time thing. It wouldn't be, it's not per month or anything like that. Based on connections now, that would be about $58,000. What I did is I rounded it to 60 and said, well, okay, based on the budget that you just passed, that we're now in, your cash position estimated at the end of this budget cycle was going to be, or was $3,130,000 of change. That was about 11 and a half months of coverage. If you put in 60,000, again, I just rounded it, that would drop 11 and a half to 10 and a half. So it would make a small effect. I think you're still in good shape. You know, obviously we want to get up to 12 ideally or more across most of the MUDs. I'd say the last couple of years, you included, have done a great job of moving that up. Since I've been here, we've moved everybody up, I think, in, you know, coverage in reserves. So that's a good thing with all the work that we have coming. So I just thought that might be helpful to know what $50,000 or $60,000 does to the budget. So kind of leave that up to thoughts. And
So this would be covered by some specific agreement and with that amount? or
yeah, it would
how-
have to
how
be
that-
packaged up. I mean, that's some of the districts. So Metro, MUD 1 and MUD 39 have now not given me a nod that they're comfortable with these shares. But I think some are saying, well, is this obligating me to be a long-time maintenance partner or just a one-time helper on the infrastructure? And that's, we've been clear to say, no, this is a one-time. This isn't going to obligate you to be an O&M partner on this, to join into the day in, day out expenses. So unless you want to be, but I don't think that's, I don't think that's.
And that would be outlined in the agreement as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Something we'd papered up somehow.
It's gonna just be a lump sum contribution toward the project, and then whatever's left, whatever the delta is, will be split based on the existing pro rata allocation of the parties that are already, involved in the contract.
And that's how this worked. So the percentages don't mean anything on the front end.
Mhm.
Those are backed into by what the totals came to.
Right.
Because, I've got their percentages, but I don't have, like Metro and One, they don't care what their percentage is. They're looking at a dollar amount.
Yeah.
And in your case, I looked at a cost per household. Well, so I backed into those. So the percentages don't really mean much other than theirs, to Brian's point, is whatever's left of the shortage is split amongst them by their current percentages. Like you just said.
So if we commit to the 60,000 and another MUD decides not to move forward, then that shortfall would go back to the original 5.
Correct.
Okay.
That's exactly, yep.
I'm generally comfortable with that.
No, I'm absolutely comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think we have a small part of MUD 6 actually is on the adjacent to Lake Woodlands, which is part of any potential, opportunity should there be a failure. So yeah, we have an interest
Mhm.
for those residents,
Right.
certainly. Other parts of MUD 6, we're not really involved, but I think it's a worthwhile opportunity to join with the rest of the MUDs in the Woodlands.
I agree.
Yeah, I know y'all understand this, but I think it is important to show a good partnership with, as a Woodlands community.
Yes.
I appreciate it. I'll,
So when does the decision have
Really?
to?
yeah, we don't have take action
Right.
on the agenda today. I just wanted to get kind of a feel for where everybody was.
Yeah.
Once I have, I got one more now with y'all. I've got one more. And so later today, once I confirm those, I'll score these numbers up. I will put it on the agenda for action next month.
Okay.
I just want to compliment you on your report too. It's really been very informative. So I like it.
Thank you.
Just one comment. I was at a meeting of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee on Monday evening. One of the board members, because there were discussion about reforestation along some of the drainage areas adjacent to residences. You mentioned a couple of drainage ditches in the research forest area. I don't know which one it is, but he said they had standing water. And I said, well, you need to call Woodlands Water and make sure that they're aware of that. I don't know if he did, but
We're well aware of where the water stands.
I figured that.
Yeah.
I figured
I
that.
don't know. No, they didn't,
But-
they didn't reach out to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was my first response. Say, look, you got to really talk to Woodlands Water, advise them of what you're observing. Okay.
Yeah, in some cases it's intentional, in other cases it's due to, siltation downstream.
Yeah.
But we identified all of those.
That's part of the GIS database. Okay. Got it.
So that was important. Addressing that was generally accounted for in all the budgets that we put together.
Yeah. Yeah.
As
Okay.
part of our evaluation.
Squared away.
Thank you. I think we have our communications.
Yes.
Hey, John.
7 for that. Afternoon. Excited to announce that we're underway with their first bona fide school-based water conservation education program. So collaborating with the River Authority and with the township, we're going to be piloting a program at Tough Elementary, specifically in the 5th grade, to implement a standards-based curriculum for teachers that will also involve a take-home water conservation kit that they implement with their parents. And then we will assess outcomes from that, both, knowledge and attitude changes, and then also water savings as well. And so ideally, this goes well, we learn some lessons, we make some tweaks, and then we can look at bringing this to all 5th graders in our jurisdiction in the following school year would be the goal. I'll keep you updated on the progress with that.
I think that's awesome.
Bear Branch Dam renewal, we did some communications on that. We had a press release. There are a couple of news items that are residing on our homepage right now. Sent out some e-blasts, social media. If you missed those news items, you can just QR that or just go to our homepage. It's right there. On page 58, the infrastructure renewal communications campaign. Want to note that the community working group met on the 23rd. That was the 6th time they've met. And at that meeting, they heard from HDR about the water line assessment. They also got some marching orders. We have a digital toolkit. And, one of the main aims of this group is to not only bring us information, feedback, questions, concerns from the community, but then to take information out so we can expand our reach. So they are utilizing this digital toolkit and plugging that into their specific outreach mechanisms. And so I'm excited by that. We're really starting to see even more action out of this group. It's been a great process so far. The group has been engaged and so forth, and now we're seeing it take it to another level. So it's good. USGS water table report, you got a QR for that one. If you missed that presentation by Jason Ramage from the USGS till the end of September, you can still see that recording by QRing that code right there. On page 59, I wanted to highlight this current month's water bill ad is on how to calculate your mud taxes and other important information for homeowners about their mud taxes. Just trying to get folks more educated there. And we did a lot of accompanying communications with that, e-blast, social media, or standard outreach mechanisms, and letting them know that you've reduced their rate. On page 60 up top, there's an article right now on the Woodlands Community Magazine that we did on the GRP. You can QR that. And then on 61, you have an outreach calendar. Just want to note that I'll be out at the Wildflower Festival at Rob Fleming Park on Saturday, and then at the Cochran's Crossing VA Fall Festival on Sunday. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our trustees report.
Yes, go to page 62. And I think it's pretty much covered. I think the critical thing was getting an agreement in a broad sense on water line renewal and getting that onto the 10-year project plan, which I think is a critical step. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Executive session?
Not necessary.
Okay. Any matters for placement on the future agenda?
Yeah, we're just talking about that briefly before the meeting. I'd like to see if somebody from Howard Hughes Development Corporation could come out next month and give us an update on the #1 Riva Row project, because it looks like it's 99% completed. That's a part of MUD 6. And I think Howard Hughes had picked up the major infrastructure project of $850,000 because there already was infrastructure there before they took on this major project. But we should get the ad valorem value of what that addition is going to be to MUD 6, and get some general update would be appreciated.
Yeah, the project manager mentioned that they would have some residents moving in as early as the end of this month. But then the project would be complete, I think, January 2026 is what they're targeting. So,
Are these pure rental or condos?
I believe condos, but
That's why we get the ad valorem value of the,
I'm not sure there's any rentals on that
We'll
one.
get the value,
regardless.
yeah, regardless, but it won't show up on the certifieds until next year's certified.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get it in August.
But I was thinking significant. I don't know how many units are involved, but it's hundreds, and it's going to be, it's a huge, high value.
Some of the same resources that they were allocating towards the library project are now focused on that. So I would assume that they're going to finish it up.
Oh, good point.
And I know that over the last couple of months, we've been working hard to try to get those taps and the appropriate water lines set up for them as well. And coordinating with the county and us, because kind of going under the road there.
Okay. Anything else?
Maybe they can give us an update on what's going to happen to the old community center and library property. Probably not yet.
No plans on that.
Meeting adjourned.
You really hate that.
I don't, I do.